Hi guys, Trent at Black Horse Ranch here. In this week's episode, we got to get busy setting our grade. We've got to build our cribbing, and we've got to build our wall trusses so we can get that barn off the ground. Let's get to work. Before we can lift the barn or get the foundation going, we have to establish where we want our grade to be. And so I just look out here, this is kind of going to be the parking area. And so I want our grade at the edge of the barn or at the foundation to be at least a couple inches above that. And so what I did, this is a grade laser. It's set up over here behind the camera, and that projects a flat plane with a laser. I shot the ground right here, and then I measured on my stick here, and I lowered my sensor down 2 inches. 2¼ inches is about what I've got. And so from here up to the barn will go up 2¼ inches. Now I want that to be a constant, and I'm not going to be able to do all this in one day. So what I need to do is set a grade pin. And so I'm going to set the grade pin way over here out of the area where we're working so it won't get bumped, but that'll set and that'll be our grade for the edge of the barn. And so our foundation will go 6 inches above that. And so, but we can use that as a starting point every day we come out here. I know that I have to be 36 inches below grade where we dig, so I'm gonna do that based off of this pin. We can set the top of our footings, we can set the top of our foundation wall. So all that stuff that we're gonna do will center on this grade pin here. So I'm gonna set that pin, and then we'll move on with the rest of the stuff. So the reason I want the grade to be about 2½ or 2¼ inches above the parking area is because we want any water to drain away from the building. We don't want it to go up against the foundation, so that's why we picked that dimension. When we hear the solid tone, that's where we'll be at our right spot. Okay. So we've got our grade pin set there, and we're a little bit low. I was aiming for 2 inches, or 2¼ is what I had the measurement set for, but we're probably about 2 1/8, which should be fine. And I can always compensate for that. But so that grade stake is over here, and the barn's way over there. So we want it to be out of the way where we're not gonna accidentally run over it or anything like that. And then that way it'll always stay at the same level, because I don't want to come over here and find that it got ran over and it's got pushed an inch down into the ground and throw us all off. So now that we got our grade set, we got to build our cribbing, and our cribbing is the support structure for the barn while it's up in the air. So if you're like me, you're gonna wonder what cribbing is, and I didn't know this until I was doing research in how we were gonna try to lift the barn. Well, cribbing is basically like a Lincoln log structure that you build to it's basically your jacking points, and it's what the building sits on while you're waiting, while you're getting all the foundation work and stuff done underneath it. And so it's kind of like, so we're gonna have 4 sets of cribbing, and it's kind of like, Lincoln logs. So we lay 2, we're using railroad ties, so we'll lay 2 railroad ties down one direction, and then we cross them with another 2 railroad ties, and then you keep doing that and you stack them up until eventually you get to the right height, and then you can set your building down on those. And they're very stable. They don't tip over easy, especially when you have multiple ones. And they provide a good resting place for a period of time while you're getting everything done underneath. So we're gonna get ready and get busy setting those cribbings up, and you can come check that out here.
Question is, you're putting one at all 4 corners, then the barn would have to get bigger this way for the other wall.
Yeah, the beams that I'm screwing to the walls will stick out 5 feet. Because we have to dig out like this far. We have to dig out that far past the barn from the inside. We've gotten all the cribbing, the first row of cribbing down and leveled in their individual spots. Now what I want to do is I'm going to set up the laser, and we're going to check to see which one's the lowest, and then I'll try to make them all even by either adding additional wood or digging, probably just by adding additional wood, so that we're jacking from the same location in all the spots. That'll make it more uniform as we go up. We can just put in more railroad ties. So that's what we're gonna do now. See what's lowest. Okay, that one's for sure the lowest. Now we'll figure out which one's the highest. I would say that corner's the highest. What would you say?
Looks like it.
Those are very close. All right, so that's 2 sets of railroad ties on top of this one to make us level with the other side. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, we'll check the other one. So that's 2.5 inches beyond 2 railroad ties. So the main reason I've got these railroad ties basically pointing toward the building is that when we dig from underneath to make room for the footing, if I have a railroad tie that's parallel to the building and we lose a little bit of our dirt underneath the front edge, that whole side will collapse down. So doing it this way helps us, if we could still lose a little bit of dirt or support under the front of the railroad ties, but we still have all the support back here, so it's not going to want to tip down into the hole as easy. Hopefully, that's the thought anyway. So now that we have the cribbing in place, it's time to get working on the wall trusses. Now remember, the wall trusses are going to be what we attach to the wall, basically make the wall into a truss. So there'll be a bottom cord that we got to put on, some verticals, and then that's all got to be structurally screwed onto the building. So here's that. First thing we got to do is figure out where we need to cut the siding so we can attach those bottom cords to the walls, and then we can get working on everything else to tie it all together. What I'm doing now is marking the siding where we're going to cut down the side so I can put my bottom cord of my wall truss down the side, and then we'll cut a square out on this side so we can feed one in and secure one onto the inside of the wall. And the things that, my obstacles that I was trying to avoid, that sewer pipe down there, I'm going 2 2x12s above that. And then I had to be below the window frames So there's a window frame on the other side that I'm just below. So we'll get this siding cut out. Unfortunately, there's my power. Those wires hanging out right there. So I'm gonna have to roll the generator over here so I can cut these, cut the siding off, pull it off, and then start building our trusses. Oh, wow. See that line? Go ahead. Pretty good.
See, it used to be white.
Yeah, it still is. Well,
They've made it a grayish siding.
so I checked on the depth of my saw, and at least right here it was going through the siding, both layers of siding, and just nicking the 2x6 underneath. But there's a piece of the old, can't tell if it's cedar, but the old shiplap siding that's still under all of this. So, but unfortunately it wasn't taken care of, and so we got to get rid of it. So here's some of the stuff that we were concerned about reusing the old beam. Well, it feels pretty solid, but that's definitely seen some water. So, a perfect example, and that's just where it's been out behind the siding. So it's probably worse underneath where it's been sitting on that concrete right there. Oh look, a bug grenade. Indoor fogger. Throw it under and run. Let's just prevent them from getting in. Oh wow, look at this. So this is our active propane line. It's shut off at the tank back there, and it's shut off here. But we'll put that one back into service when we get this all dug out. We'll just have to be careful when we dig out the foundation not to get that line. I like that look better. I would like to do shiplap again. I mean, it would look nice, but I don't know if we can afford it, you know? You guys see this? If you want shiplap, hit that subscribe button. Give us some support. Give us some love. We can take this as far as you want to take it. Okay, so the last thing on this side we have to do is make sure we get the nails out. I got to take these 3 boards out that have screws in them. That way our ledger board that we lag on to the wall won't be held out by the nails. So this side's done. We'll do the other side the same way, and we'll bring you back when we've got our trusses ready to be built. Hey guys, today we're going to be working on these trusses so we can lift the barn. And yesterday I got this one partly done. It's just kind of tacked onto the building right now with nails. We've got these structural lag screws that we'll be using to put them on solid, you know, the way they're supposed to be. These have a lot of shear strength and a lot better hold than nails. They're rated for ledger boards. And so what we've got here is we've got a leg that's sticking out about 5 feet, and you can see it going down. We've got 2 2x6s on the top and a 2x12 underneath that for lifting. And then down halfway down there we got a gusset plate. So my idea basically from here, the reason this is sticking up is we're gonna take an angled 2x6 and run it up there where I've got the siding removed and basically make a truss out of this wall. So when we lift from this point here, any upward motion that's gonna wanna, you know, break these boards at the wall right here is gonna push on the top plate of the wall, you know, which basically squeezes the truss together. And so that's kind of the idea here. And then we left the siding on because the siding will provide us a lot of shear strength. When we lift, it'll keep the building kind of rigid and held together. There might be some sag just because it's shiplap siding underneath this old particle board T111, and the T111 isn't secured on very well at all. It has, like, I don't know, it would be lucky to see, you know, 8 nails in a sheet based on what I've ripped off so far. A lot of them are screws, and screws, regular, you know, sheetrock screws or that kind of thing, they don't have any shear strength. They break really easy compared to these, which are made for that. So the outside siding gives it a little bit extra, but it's mostly the shiplap on the inside. And since those are small, narrow boards, they don't provide a whole lot of shear strength, which is why you'll see inside the building, or if you've noticed on other videos, there's the diagonal blocking in the walls, and that was to keep the building from racking one direction or the other. So on both sides of this wall, I've got 2 2x6s and a 2x12 underneath all the way down. And then these will be our lifting points with the angled truss going up. And then I'm going to use OSB, which has a lot of shear strength, on the angled 2x6 as a gusset on both ends, just to keep it more rigid so it doesn't bend and flex, and keep the tie, you know, the connection at the bottom and the top secure. So I didn't get this on video, but we haven't done the other side yet. So today you'll get to see that. We'll get our trusses up, and we might be lifting by Monday. Today's Saturday. Alright, so we got our pattern here for the angle of the truss. I'll show you where it goes and what we've got up at the top. So come on in. So up at the top we've got that 2x8 rough cut lagged into the top plates. The way this barn was constructed is you have the wall top plate that sits on top of the front top plate. So it's a double top plate on top of a double top plate. And so we've got one lag into each set. And that's just kind of a biting point. Those two screws aren't meant to hold all the weight, but this will go up here. We've got that bird's mouth at the top. And then it'll sit on top of here, and then we'll screw OSB onto the face of this, or nail it, and that's what'll actually give this the rigidity, not so much that point up there. And so if this angle is locked in, if this tries to bend up, it's just going to push against the building up there, and it'll just help support this end. So we've got the pattern. We'll go ahead and trace out a few of these, at least for this front side. And I'll trace out one more for the back in case it works for the back too. And then we'll go ahead and throw them up and start throwing some OSB on here. All right, here's one of them before we put the OSB sheeting on. That's all tied together. And then I put in the middle there's a brace to keep the boards from bowing in or out if there's push pressure put on them. And then I've got them just nailed at the top just to keep them from going from side to side. But those shouldn't move really up there with that bird's mouth and the OSB. So now we'll take on this side here, on both sides actually, we'll put a sheet of OSB on there and give it its rigidity. And once that sheet of OSB is on there, then we can come through here and we're going to actually put some of those structural lag screws in through the boards here. And then actually we probably won't do it there because there's not going to be any pressure on that block in the middle. I've got a 10-inch steel plate that'll span across that gap, so the plate will actually be contacting everything, not the jack. And then these, so on every stud, we're going to put those structural lags all the way down there. So we'll do this at each corner basically. We'll build the structure and I'll show you what it looks like again once we get that OSB on there. So there's a lot of nails in there, but that's where you get your shear strength on the OSB. So we'll go a little bit overboard just to make sure. So we've got our structural lag screws here, and these new ones, these ones are Simpson strong tie. They're called Strong Drive. So I'm gonna put a couple in the 2x12 and one in each 2x6. We'll start there for now, and I'm gonna do that along on each stud all the way down. And so that'll give us our lift strength. Also, that's why I've got the boards right up against the bottom of the siding, because I've also read that, you know, with the sheer strength of the siding, you can almost lift the whole building. So that'll also keep, you know, our lag screws from wanting to pull out or shear off. So we're out of lag screws. We'll have to get some more bugs. Today's a Sunday, so we'll have to get some on Monday, and then we can finish this out. So in the meantime, we'll go ahead and throw up our gussets, and that'll be it for today. Well guys, that's it for today. We've got all these gussets put up, and we'll call it good for tonight. I need to go down and get some more structural lags to finish off the trusses, and then we will finish this tomorrow, and we might be ready to lift here pretty soon. So stay tuned.